Hello, and yes, of course, indeed, welcome to another Whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me. This is review number 129, and probably, although I'm not quite sure, I think part 12 of this series of A Baker's Dozen. I've sort of lost track a bit there. And we move on, this time staying with 12-year-olds, to another Highland Balblair. The Balblair 12-year-old. Balblair there, owned by Inver House, up there, not a million miles away from the Glenmorangie distillery, up around the, is it the Firth of Forth up there? Probably correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure. This one released in 2019 as part of their new core range. Up until that point, you were really looking at vintages from Balblair, which was mostly their sort of thing. This was released to say 2019 as part of their core range, along with 15, 18, and I believe it was a 25-year-old. So they're sort of started to swerve and sort of almost, I suppose you would say, following the trend of everyone else, where it's you start to add an age statement. Never actually got the opportunity to try any of the vintages, but I always heard great things about them. So this, once again, as I said, the new core range and the entry to the new core range. Bald naturally. This is what Ralphie would consider all day long an integrity bottling. Bottled at 46%, natural colour, non-chill filtered. It says there on the label, which is what we like to see. And something else before I move further on. Something I discovered, that you will always get a very fine with this bottle every time, it would appear. So, not that it means anything, we do like a good pop every now and again. And the other thing, another great plus with this is for it to be 46% non-chill filtered, no colour added. I paid £38 for this. I've seen it as low as 35, usually sort of between the 35 to 45, I think seems to be the range here in the UK. But for something that's very naturally presented, I think that's a great price. So that's the pluses. There are other pluses, don't get me wrong, of course there are. We'll get to them. This is matured ex-bourbon, ex-double fire, or double fired bourbon casks. I think something like that there was the way it was worded. So, I would certainly then, when I hear of all that bourbon maturation, have a sort of vague or a rough idea of what I'm going to find. So let's get into it, shall we? Bright, sweet, that 46% is actually noticeable to the point where, and somebody else I read recently, somebody suggested, and I would totally agree, a little spirit forward. And it is a little spirit forward. What I mean by that, if you're sort of new, well, it just, the spirit tends to drive it then, where it's kind of hard to find what's behind it, because it's at that 46% does pack a bit of a punch. Although it does settle down, and then it's lemon zest. This is where I start to get into that expectation of ex-bourbon cask. Lemon zest, vanilla. It's kind of grainy. It's kind of malty. Slight hint of pencil shavings. Slight hint of acetone or nail varnish remover, which yet again I would find in most bourbons. So the cask is having its influence here. Also barley sugar, digestive biscuit, all notes which I think are quite synonymous with ex-bourbon maturation. It's not stepping away here. It's not really being anything that I wouldn't have expected it to be, knowing that it's the way it's presented and the way it has been matured. So let's see what the taste is like. It's a sharp, bittersweet arrival. Nice, oily coating, mouthfeel. Do like the mouthfeel there, yep. That maltiness is in the palate, even more so than it was in the nose. The digestive biscuit follows more so in the palate than it did in the nose. Barley sugar, honey, lemon zest, vanilla. Tick, tick, tick. All the things I would expect from ex-bourbon maturation. Decent enough, yes, if not overly exciting, is what I would say. Finish, sort of medium length. Not terribly memorable, slightly bitter on the way out. A little hot. 46% raises its head again. Now 46% isn't huge, I know. It's not like as if this is bottled at cask strength, but it's just sometimes it feels a little, to me, some whiskies, even at 46%, they feel a little unrefined, or just, it just punches even a bit more above that weight. And this is a prime example. I did add a little bit of water. It wasn't an awful lot. It has a good mouthfeel. I think actually the water sort of works and sort of doesn't. Let's see. It's more rounded on the nose. There's more of that lemon zest, but it's a nice, gentle, more like a lemon drizzle, like you would get in a lemon drizzle cake now. So the citrus is still there, but it's just not as sharp. And there's some more, there's fruit. And I said earlier about digestive biscuit. Well, now, I mean, the fruit is like apples, so it's like an apple tart or apple pie or whatever way you want to. Because that sweetness has blended in with a pastry softness. So yeah, the water, that little drop of water does help the nose a bit. Water definitely helps the palate because it takes some of that sharp tang out of it. Yet again, makes it rounder. The flavours remain in place very well, actually. The flavours remain in place. Definitely honey and lemon, getting on to a honey and lemon syrup like you would get in those minthily sweets, which names escape me, with the soft cinders for colds and flus, etc. It's like that, and it works quite well. Finish, some of that burn comes out of the finish, which would be expected with the addition of water. So look, you know, it does have its pluses. It really does. For one, definitely, 46%, non-chill filtered, no colour added. I paid £38 for it. I think I maybe mentioned that earlier. That's a great price for that, for what you're getting there. Even up to £45, still a good price for what you're getting. Yes, it is. And I wouldn't for 1 second say I dislike this whiskey. Neither would I offer it up to someone expecting to blow their mind. I think that's the best way to explain it. It has its qualities, very much so. I just didn't find it terribly exciting. It's a whiskey that I imagine I will put in the cabinet and probably forget about. So let's just leave the beating at that, shall we? Now, I'm saying a beating. It wasn't really a beating. You know, as I say, I don't dislike it. I just didn't find it terribly exciting. And I think what explains it best, or what explains it to me, and where I could put it is, it'll go into the cabinet and probably be forgotten about. I hear great things about the 15-year-old. I'll probably move on to that at some point. So, you know, this is actually, believe it or not, my first Balblair. So, I'm not disappointed. I'm not, but neither, as I say, would I expect to blow anybody's mind. So, if you like this, if this is summer, you're coming along your journey, you've paid that price and got you have got a good whiskey for the money there. There's no denying that. What would I suggest? Well, this is another whiskey that never blew my mind. Well presented, once again, but just has never excited me. The Bruichladdich Classic Laddie. 50%, I imagine, I believe. Yeah. And although it's unchill filtered, natural colour. I have no idea how much is in that bottle. None whatsoever. Unless I pour it all into a jug and then pour it back again. But it's another one that never really and I'm sure I'll probably get comments not being able to understand why I don't like Bruichladdich Classic Laddie. It just never really excited me. But that being said, I do think if you enjoyed Balblair 12-year-old and are looking for an alternative and would like to, I would say, a step up, I would recommend the Classic Laddie. That's what this section is for. That's all I can do. I can do no more than that. So yeah, I've said it before. I will say it again. And I was going to say not disappointed. Just not excited, but there. That's the easiest way to explain it. Not terribly exciting whiskey. A bit meh, I think, is the term that the youth would use. So I'll leave it with that. And say thank you for joining me. As always, been a pleasure to have you. Thank you to my patrons. If you wish to join that group, the details are below, so they are. I'll be back next time with something a little different. Until then, here's to your good health, my friends. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.